On this week's episode, who got the upper hand with the Rings of Power? Was EA's final FIFA game a good one? And is Peacock wanting its community one more time? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do anything that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, the Happy Hoarder, and everything that we do, including all the great stuff for our own great things at popculturecosmos.com. The fact that we are the number one tabletop RPG streamer out there on Facebook. Catch all the great games this weekend, as you do every weekend with DM Mitch. Also, as well, on Monday with the Demolition Force. And of course, the great games run by Melinda, as far as Wild Beyond the Witchlight with Wizards and Wine. And of course, Vampires and Vitae, which you can also catch on the weekends as well. And of course, everything that we do here at Pop Culture Cosmos, including the fact that we cover the latest news and trends better than anyone else on pop culture, right there for you at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. And if you can go ahead and catch all that, it is sincerely appreciated. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is the man behind Hope's Fall, for us, anyways. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today with the Happy Hoarder and all the great things that he's doing, including the Super BS Gamescast and, of course, his amazing book, Congratulations, You Suck. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's up, man? How you doing? It's Sunday. We're had a big week of pop culture stuff.
Oh my gosh, a ton of news, man. As I told our listeners on Friday, so much news we had to break it up into two shows with all the ton of news that came from last week and what's coming up this week. My gosh, man, just so great to go ahead and report on it. Big shout out to good friend Kelly at KBOG. Good friend Kel at KBOG. Thanks so much for all the support that you and all the listeners of your great station have given us over the many years. You sent some kind words last week, and I made sure that everybody on the staff got a chance to check it out. And we just truly appreciate everything that you do for us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Agree, sir?
Agreed.
Absolutely, indeed. But everything okay for you, my friend? Heading into a great October? Going to be a very busy month for us.
Yeah. I mean, as we're hitting the holiday season here, we're gonna have more and more things coming out, more and more surprises, and big one I'm sure you've already talked about is Hugh Jackman and the Wolverine.
Absolutely.
Coming back with Deadpool 3. Yeah, man. I mean, that came out of left field, but that made my year.
I imagine it did, my friend. That was some great news. We talked about it in detail last week. We can always talk about it anytime you want right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos as well. But man, I tell you what, major announcement for Deadpool 3. But there's more Marvel news we need to cover. And again, because there was so much news, we couldn't cover it on last week's show. So we'll talk about more Marvel news, including Blade and Armored Wars. That's coming up on the show. Plus also as well, we're reunion again. A reunion is Peacock is making possible for Community. The great show that was on for several years, maybe returning with some great characters involved. We'll talk about that coming up, but who is not involved and who is not committed as of yet? We'll talk about that coming up on the show. Plus also as well, E3 is returning officially coming up next year. We'll talk about that, plus also as well all the video game news, including Skull and Bones being delayed one more time, Overwatch 2 not being delayed and coming out this week, FIFA 23 coming out last week, and the final time for EA and FIFA. Also, as well, the death of a major gaming platform, which unfortunately didn't become a major gaming platform. Was also as well, The Last of Us debuted its first trailer coming up for HBO Max next year. Jeffrey Dahmer on Netflix, and Smile, Josh. Smile won the box office this weekend. That's what we're going to be talking about on this show as well. But first, my friend, Lord of the Rings of Power, Episode 6, and its demise has been overstated. It's been greatly overrated because the fact it's still going strong, and it had a major battle with a great episode this past week, Episode 6. The battle for the Southlands, my friend, we thought concluded with a major battle with the villagers and the Numenorians bonding together, almost like a two tower-esque type battle, which turned out to be in the favor of the good guys. But wait, one last twist came about, and Mount Doom was created, and so much more as far as the beginnings of Mordor is also happening right there at the Rings of Power.
Yeah, they weren't gonna let us have a heartfelt ending to that episode, were they? That was
No.
completely unexpected. And the people involved were unexpected too. So when they keep doing this thing, right? They keep doing this thing where they keep like hinting, spoilers. They keep hinting that Halbrand is Sauron. They keep doing that. They keep making you think, it's just like you have no idea what I've done. And then he holds a spear over what's the guy's name? Arid or Adar?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they hold the spear. He's holding the
Adar,
spear
yes.
over his throat, and he goes, "Do you remember me?" And like
Yes.
it almost makes you think like, oh, there could be there could be weight behind that theory.
But then he doesn't remember him. So
He doesn't, but Sauron's also a shapeshifter. But anyways, and then all of a sudden in the episode they make him seem like he's their Aragorn. This shows Aragorn though, so
yeah.
it's just I don't know. It's just such a weird thing. Like, is he Sauron? Is he not? I don't know.
And then
He's
the individual that actually set off all the chain of events for the creation of Mordor and Mount Doom,
Well, okay, so that's
that
what I
came
was
out of
thinking.
that came out of left field.
I thought that was Halbrand. Like, I thought he took when the kid had the thing and he opened it up and ended up just being an axe. I thought that Halbrand had somehow gone off because all you see is the long hair from the back, and then the
Yeah.
camera flips around and it's the old man, and like
Yeah.
I was not expecting that to happen at all.
Yeah, actually, a very good episode. I think the best of all the episodes of The Lord of the Rings of Power. I like the fact that there's still more to go and more to come with the Rings of Power for this season. But the fact is that the creation of Mount Doom and Mordor and all the dark stuff that we eventually see later on in the films has already started that chain of events. So I'm really happy with what I saw from this week's episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was great. I'm now committed to the last two episodes. Like, I really need to know what happens and where this is going because it has totally taken my expectations and turned it on its head. My only disappointment in this episode, I know there's a lot going on. Like, this episode actually felt longer than the rest of them.
It was because it was about 70 minutes long.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was wondering, why it felt that way. But it bums me out that we didn't get to see anything from the hobbits or the dwarves story. I was hoping to see that talk between the Prince Dwarf and his father.
Yeah, I think you'll get that next week. The thing is, though, I first of all, I like the fact that when they need to, they take one of the stories that they're trying to tell that are taking place at different points in
Mhm.
the area of Middle Earth, that they take the time to tell one part of the story, or at least how two stories come together into one. And
Yeah.
that they also, the great thing about streaming is when they do these series, they're not limited by the number of minutes that they have to constrain themselves. They're not
Mhm.
limited to go ahead and be on 22 minutes or 44 minutes as far as with commercials and all that. I'm glad that the fact that I'm glad the fact that they were able to go ahead and actually make this the longest episode of the series to date, and that's at 70 minutes. They were able to flesh out that entire story without having to be constrained by any time issues or anything of that nature. I really actually enjoyed that part of it. Yeah, I know for some people, oh, it was a little longer, but hey, you know what?
Yeah.
It actually worked for that episode.
No, it absolutely did, and that was something that's, I don't know, like, everyone kept saying, like, "Hey, this is, the show is not the show is dragging a little bit." This, like, totally shifted that for me.
Absolutely. I still think right now it's head and shoulders above the Game of Thrones House of the
Mhm.
Dragon, which is okay. I'm not saying it's bad, not saying it's great. I'm just saying it's there. It's okay. It's doing what it's doing. And of course, it's bringing in all the viewers, but looks like Lord of the Rings is as well. So, what are your thoughts out there on Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Episode 6? A major battle took place. And once we thought the good guys had won, things changed quite dramatically indeed. So now I'm curious what's going on for the future of the series. Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Before we hit the break, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and touch on one more thing, and that is Dahmer on Netflix. Jeffrey Dahmer on Netflix, the series that's out, has been a major winner for Netflix. I'm not sure I'm exactly comfortable with that, but you know our fascination with morbidity and all that type of stuff. Your thoughts on this, my friend? Because Blonde has come out to less than happy reviews. I checked it out. It's doing well as well, but unfortunately, it's a very ugly movie. It's a very, I guess, aggressively mean movie at times to the legend of Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe. I know she had a very sad life, a very tough life, but I know that that movie's, like I said, it is what it is, but it seems to be getting a lot of people in for an NC-17 movie. Dahmer is another one. Just seems like the fascination with our morbidity and all that dark stuff. The telling of Dahmer on the series for Netflix has really gone over well. Your thoughts on this dark turn for viewers as we get into October for Netflix?
You know, it's funny because you look at that, we're getting more like, Netflix has more and more of that content popping up, it's like the
And people seem to be clamoring for it.
yeah, like the true crime stuff, and, like, I'm not really into that kinda stuff, like, it's cool. I know there's an audience for true crime shows, true crime podcasts, like, we do have this weird fascination with our own mortality and, like,
Yeah.
just how far into the darkness a human being can slip, but I don't know, on it just it that kinda stuff doesn't do anything for me. Um,
Blonde
Netflix,
is just
though.
Blonde is just a mean movie. It's just a mean movie.
So
Yeah, it
that
is.
one's interesting to me because I have not watched it yet, but from what I'm reading, everyone's saying, yeah, like, yeah, it's such a mean movie, yet I could not stop watching it. It's like it's one of those things where, like, that it's not accurate, or I don't even know if it's
It no,
accurate
actually,
correct, but
it is not a wholly accurate because they actually go ahead and change the narrative. There's a major plot point in there that wasn't accurate based off
mhm,
of individuals that she barely dated or spent time with that were brought together to go ahead and piece a part of the narrative as far as the fictional part of the narrative for
yeah,
her story, and they change it as far as that's concerned her actual story to this, which made it even meaner and uglier. And I don't know if I can't stop watching it because I actually did stop watching it. I actually, walked away from it as far as due to time constraints, and I came back to finish it off, and it really just did not. I don't know. It just was not really that much of an enjoyable movie as well for me. I mean,
right,
I understand tragic movies. I've enjoyed tragic movies before in a weird way, but this movie was just unrelenting from the get go. The first 15 minutes are disturbing, and there are people that are turning it off within the first 15 minutes because there's something in there in the first 15 minutes that's very disturbing. So
but
again,
here
like you said,
y
it's getting scathing reviews on Metacritic, and I can see why because it's just a very ugly movie.
but here's the thing, like, I think it was the fact that it was an NC-17 movie that made people wanna watch it in the first place, like,
Yeah,
all these
I
people that are
agree.
complaining about, like, you know, not to say you're complaining, but like all these people that are like wanting to give it scathing reviews, like they, I don't know what they were expecting. You know, like there's not really ever has anything good come out of an NC-17 movie. So it's just it's I don't know. I don't know, man. Like I've heard people say like, yeah, it's really bad, but it's like well put together. I don't know. I don't know if it's
It's
something I'm
very
gonna be watching.
stylistic. It tries to treat itself as an indie film. So, because it tries to show
Yeah.
you and go down these different images and experiment with all these different things as far as showcasing parts of her life in a negative fashion and
Mhm.
all the negative things that happened to her, and really just beats you over the head of it, beats you over the head. But it
Yeah.
shows, like, again, experiments with a lot of different things. It seems like also at times like a high school film experiment because, oh, I get to play with this while I'm showcasing the scene. Oh, I get to play with that
Mhm.
while I'm
Yeah.
showcasing the scene. And that doesn't work for me as well. It just seems like it was like a whole bunch of things thrown together and it just consistently beats you overhead with the negative. And I get it. Her life was tragic. Her life was tragic. I
Yeah.
understand it. I don't expect a fairy tale when I watch a Marilyn Monroe biopic, but I at least expect something that hopefully comes closer to the actual truth, both good and bad. But unfortunately, again, there was some change in narrative. There were changes in the narrative that made it even worse rather than better.
Yeah, no, and I get that. But yeah, I mean, I was surprised when I heard that this movie was coming out on Netflix at an NC-17 rating because it's, you know, it seems like kind of a risky move. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's not something I'm gonna be watching myself probably, but I was definitely curious to hear what people were saying about it. And from what you're saying, it doesn't really sound like something that's worth spending time with.
Well, it's also a long movie as well. It's 3 hours plus. So it is not exactly a quick watch either, which is, again, beating you over the head, time in, time out, time in, time out. So it is a struggle to get through.
Hmm.
But, if you can get through it, you're going to understand that there are parts that are true to her story. But once you look deeper into the story of Marilyn Monroe, it's tragic, but to the point, and as far as just beating you over the head with all the negative stuff that you're seeing for 3 hours, it's not exactly something that you really want to go ahead and put yourself through unless you really want to find out more. But again, you got to go ahead and check out, as far as after the movie, you have to go ahead and investigate exactly what was true and not so
Yes.
true about her life. And that to me is I have an issue with because there's substantial changes that made it much worse.
Yeah, no, I imagine that they were gonna go to every extreme that they could with a show like that, and I know the actors are defending it, so I don't I mean,
And the estate of Marilyn Monroe is defending it. So yeah,
yeah.
I mean, Ana de Armas. Actually, the trailer showcased her accent a little bit more than the movie. The movie actually, she held her voice. She held her voice, and she held her voice and didn't have her accent as much in the movie. From what I was listening to, her accent didn't just pop out as much, portraying the voice of Marilyn Monroe as much as I sensed in the trailer. So that was a good thing. She portrayed Marilyn Monroe, Ana de Armas, pretty good. I thought that part of it was good. But again, so many negatives in a movie that needs more positives, one way or the other, as far as storytelling is concerned, would have been a little bit better. But yeah, to me, it was just not a great experience.
Let me ask you a question, alright?
Yes.
Say we have someone like Marilyn Monroe, right, who is this,
Yeah.
she's regardless of what she's done or what experiences people had with her or who she was in her life, like, people she's an American icon, right? Would you disagree with that statement?
Oh, no, no, absolutely. She's a pop culture icon.
She's a pop culture icon. Do you think that what is it about, you know, like TV? Do you think that we need as people like I personally feel like we need to look at our heroes as heroes, right? Like our icons as icons. I don't think that we need to find out about their darker side. You
Well,
know,
that's the
like that
thing, though. But
it
again, look at the icons that we have. Like, for instance, Prince, Michael Jackson,
Mhm.
Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley. They all had these dark sides. I mean, look at them as far as even Tupac Shakur, all these individuals had either dark sides or tragic things happen to them, which has given them that second life as a pop culture icon beyond their lives and their actually beyond their deaths too.
But why do we need to know about that though, I guess, is
Because
what like,
that's
why
our
are
morbidity. It all comes back to
what
why is
this
Jeffrey Dahmer on Netflix? Why is Jeffrey Dahmer on Netflix doing so well? Because we love our morbidity. We love
yeah,
watching the bad
it's
side of
just
humanity.
it's just so funny how we're so fascinated with that. Like, we want to see people fall that we love, you know? It's a weird thing for me to think about.
Why is true crime so popular? Why is Serial the most famous podcast of all time? Because
Yeah,
people love experiencing others' pain and misfortune, and the dark side fascinates us as a society, and that's why we keep
right.
coming back.
It's
We're
just it yeah, I don't know. It's just humans are funny, man. We are funny people.
that we are indeed, my friend, and sometimes it's not just about laughing, ha ha ha. It's about trying to understand us as a species and what we like and not like. And right
Mhm.
now, we're liking a lot on Netflix when it concerns Blonde and Dahmer, no matter how negative they can be.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts out there on Dahmer and Netflix? Excuse me. What are your thoughts out there on Dahmer and Blonde on Netflix? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we hit the half hour break, I wanted to go ahead and let you know that Smile has won the box office with about $19 million here at the US box office. Worldwide, it's still Avatar and others gaining a lion's share of the money overseas. But your thoughts on this? I thought it was a great trailer, which I think propelled it to a win at this box office. It shows me that for a smaller budget horror flick, which you and I talked about all these years, about how these are big winners for studios, it looks like a trailer for this has gone a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I like, I didn't actually know what this movie was until you sent me a thing about it. So it's yeah, like this is one of those things. Kind of remember back in the day we had like The Ring come out, we had Signs, and these were
Hmm.
all like iconic pop culture, not pop culture, but iconic horror movies for the time. Like this is what that feels like. This feels like the days back when like The Ring and The Grudge came out. Like this it's cool to see that like where you have these small budget horror films coming out and people are wanting to go see them again. Like it feels like it's just one step towards the way things used to be.
You see it, man? It's smiling. It's smiling. Evil
Yeah.
things are happening when I'm smiling. I'm smiling. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I wanted to say that it is October. All the horror movies are starting to come out, my friends. So with the
Yeah.
Halloween rush coming, they got the jump on everyone, and Smile did win the box office. But as I stated to you before, my friend, the trailer that you checked out, that has been showcased a whole bunch on commercial
Mhm.
television here in the United States and broadcast television. I think that that was the reason why it garnered a lot of people's that A, it's the first horror movie to come out for the Halloween movie season, and B, it came out with a good trailer. So I think that that's the key. Whether or not it will do anything long term, we'll wait and see. But the $19 million up front justifies, I think, the small cost it makes to make Smile.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean people are obviously excited about it. So
You
more
like that
power
evil
to them.
smile, man? Do you like evil smile? Evil
Yeah.
smile? Yeah, yeah. You're doomed, man. You're doomed. Yeah, it's all over for you because I'm smiling. You know what happens?
It's like that was that movie Mommy something or other that just came out where like the woman it has Naomi Watts and the she's has the facial bandage
Mm,
on. Did you see that trailer?
mm.
It's on Amazon Prime. I don't
Yeah,
know, it's just like there's all these, again, our fascination with such dark things, but it's interesting. These are original concepts, like,
there,
whoa, never even thought about that before.
there you go. Well, smile, my friend, because Smile has won the U.S. box office. So let me hear your thoughts out there. Have you checked out Smile? And are you smiling after watching Smile? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Well, before we hit the break, my friend, we're going to start on our run of video game related things. Actually, you know what? No, I'm sorry. Before we hit the break, my friend, Community on Peacock. That has gotten a green light for a movie. That long running, much beloved, cult favorite hit series, which showcased the crazy cast of students and teachers in a community college. That hit series for several seasons is now being made and turned into a movie with a lot of the cast returning. What are your thoughts on this, my friend? Did you enjoy it? I mean, it helped get the start of the Russo brothers behind the scenes for one of the most famous episodes on the show and regarding paintball. Pew pew. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this, my friend? There's still not a commitment from Donald Glover, one of the best entertainers on the planet, and also Yvette Nicole Brown, who is doing a lot of work herself at the moment. They have not committed to the project, but everyone else, well, excuse me, I'm sorry, outside of Chevy Chase, who has a bad, bad conflict that happened and arose during the years between him and, excuse me, him and community creator Dan Harmon. So they can't actually get along. So I don't think he'll come back. But what
I
are
hear that Chevy Chase is actually really hard to work with in general. I mean, that's why Chris
that's yeah.
Columbus backed out of, back in the day, like, he was, John Hughes put him on Christmas Vacation, and
Mhm.
he was like, "I can't work with Chevy Chase. The guy's just kind of a jerk." And uh, John Hughes was like, "All right, well, I got something else in mind for you." And that's how he ended up on the directing Home Alone. But yeah, I just hear not a lot of great things about Chevy Chase when it comes to working with them behind the scenes.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that's led to part of the reason why he's had such an up and down film career, from the greatness of the original Fletch to so many other films he's made that have worked, like Caddyshack and more. And then yet there's others that have really, if you watch them, wonder why you watch them. So I will go
Mhm.
ahead and just leave it at that. But again, he had a revival with Community, and you would think he'd want to go ahead and stick with that, but he didn't even make I guess, the final two seasons of Community simply because of the fact that he and Dan Harmon could not work together. But we'll see. Again, it's not a Community movie for me unless Donald Glover returns in a good capacity, because he was such a great part of that show, and Yvette Nicole Brown as well. Yvette Nicole Brown is a brilliant actress, and I think that both of those talented comedians need to be a part of this series, or excuse me, need to be a part of this movie in order to make it click. Otherwise, to me, it's not a true Community.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what people love about the show originally, was that they all get along so well. There's a lot of chemistry between the cast. So I don't. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they could bring them all together. But I hear even the cast of Community didn't like working with Chevy Chase, so that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Absolutely. In fact, yeah, you're right. A lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you could just look up, it'd tell you that Chevy Chase was not a beloved figure to work with behind the scenes. But I am hoping, my friend, that if there is a Community movie, not only will Donald Glover return, not only will Yvette Nicole Brown return, Chevy Chase, as much as I've appreciated him as a comedian over the years, it's up in the air. Doesn't bother me one way or the other. But I'm hoping the Russo brothers return to direct one more time the Land of Community. Because they got their start on this. They really got their name on this, and also Arrested Development as well.
Yeah, yeah, they did. Yeah, that's it's funny how, like, such big directors come from such humble beginnings.
Yeah, absolutely indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on what's going on with a brand new reunion for Community? A movie is on the way, greenlighted for Peacock, with almost all the cast confirmed. Unfortunately, there's still a couple of glaring omissions, but will they return? Who knows? But I would love to go ahead and check out a Community movie as long as it has all the main characters there. We'll see what happens. But what are your thoughts on a return for Community in a movie greenlighted by Peacock? PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Before we hit the break, my friend, any updates for the Happy Hoarder?
Yeah, I'm working on getting the inventory system put together, but once that is good, that we should have a green light to launch. So I'm excited about that for sure.
I'm excited for you on that as well. I wanted to go ahead and make sure everybody knows before we hit the break. If you can, please go ahead and give Josh's dream some love by going over to thehappyhoarder.com or the Happy Hoarder on Facebook. Actually, that's the easiest place to go right now for all the updates on
Mhm.
when the Happy Hoarder goes live. The Happy Hoarder on Facebook. So please go ahead and check it out. And while you're there on Facebook, go ahead and like his page and ours, the Pop Culture Cosmos, so you can get the latest news and trends in pop culture, and of course, everything that we do, including the fact we're the number one tabletop RPG right streamer right there on Facebook. So go ahead and check it out, Pop Culture Cosmos. But I will tell you, we've got a lot of great things coming up after the break, including video game time. E3 makes a return. Another game gets delayed. Another game begins. Two more games begin. Could this be the final time for EA and FIFA? Plus more, including our thoughts on The Last of Us, the death of a major gaming platform, and more coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Josh Peterson along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Truly appreciate it. Plus, also give a big shout out to all the great radio stations that go ahead and support us, including our good friends once again at KBOG. Truly appreciate all the time that they taken over the years to go ahead and play our shows. And truly appreciate the audience that's listening to it, plus all the radio stations that play our shows all around the world. Thank you so much for watching and listening as well on YouTube and Twitch. My friend, so much to talk about on the back half of the show, including a return to E3, because E3 announced that it is coming back next June. So, June 13th through 16th. What are you doing, my friend? Because because E3 is returning once again to LA.
I know we talked about this before, but I don't know how much interest I have in a return to E3.
Yeah.
I don't feel like the big studios are gonna back it up because they've had so much success doing their own thing. At
Yeah.
this point, I don't even know if Nintendo I okay, for me, it all depends on who returns to it, because I feel like Nintendo is the most likely to do it, but other than that, like Microsoft and Sony, I don't see them returning to it. It's just not going to have the flair that it once did. It feels like it's going to be just another like indie thing.
Well, that would be a shame. They are separating it between days for the press and media and days for the general public. Once again, they're actually doing a little bit better this time because they did mix it all together for a couple of the last E3s, and then obviously the pandemic hit. They had to kind of shut down. They've been slow to return, trying to map things out, and now they're going to go ahead and make the first 2 days available for the media, and then the last 2 days available for the public at large.
Mhm.
Please, but get ready to buy your tickets. Of course, E3 is trying to go ahead and profitize itself, and it's got to do what it's got to do. But like you said, it all depends on who shows up at E3. And I don't think if you get a major commitment from Nintendo, Sony slash PlayStation, or Xbox, if you don't get a commitment from all three, it's truly not an E3 that I want to remember.
Well, I even feel like the press, like, these big game publications that are normally out there, I feel like they're probably even going to wait to send people until they know like who's going to be there.
And that's a shame because E3, I've been on this soapbox before, my friend, when it comes to E3,
Mhm.
as far as being the major platform for the gaming scene to a broader audience. And we talk about all these other things that they do as far as these companies doing their own thing. And you're right, but none of them, not these Nintendo showcases, not these PlayStation States of Play, not the Xbox showcase, none of these get anywhere near the kind of pub on a general consumer basis as E3. When they do their press conferences from E3 in the past, none of them got as much publicity as doing it from E3. So I think it is probably, in my opinion, the wisest course of action to go ahead and return to E3. But I know that they won't. I have a feeling that, well, like you said, wait and see. But right now, I'm thinking negatively. I think, in the fact, in this case, I think that Sony and Nintendo are going to be hard sells on this, and they may or may not return. If they don't, or at least do in a lighter fashion, I think that's to their detriment. I really think that E3 of the past, the one reason why it became E3 is the fact that when all these studios got together, they had their conferences in the LA Sports Arena, or all the other arenas, or places around town that they had their major announcements from. I remember going to the Galen Center. I remember going to the Nokia Theater for other press conferences from all these different manufacturers and these different publishers. Just so many great times at E3. But the fact is that they got the worldwide attention that this video game industry sorely needs.
Yeah, it did. I mean, you go through gaming history, like there's a lot of big moments happened here, at E3, and I don't know if they'll ever get back to that. It's just the world in the 3 years that they've been out, like just the landscape of gaming and gaming announcements has changed so drastically.
And that to me is a shame, my friend, because again, I don't think they realize the importance of E3. I think they've forgotten the importance of E3. I don't think they like sharing the spotlight. And
Mhm.
even if they, let's put it this way, they do not like sharing the spotlight with each other. They like a smaller spotlight on them when they put these presentations out, which is to their detriment. They don't like sharing the spotlight on a larger spotlight that reaches a larger audience. They like a smaller spotlight that's just on them.
Yeah, yeah, they do, and that's unfortunate. And because, also you look at like I'm sure it's more profitable for them to do these things separately because as we discussed before, like probably renting out a booth or having a section at E3 is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something maybe E3 has to address in order for them to go ahead and make it more attractive to bring back Sony, PlayStation, or Xbox. But again, it's a two-way street. If Sony, PlayStation, and Xbox don't all come back, then you've got a big chunk of part of who you are as E3 missing. And then if you are Sony, PlayStation, Xbox, you don't return to E3 and you do your own thing, you're being left out of the biggest venture for the video game scene each and every year, or at least what it once was. And that again, it's a thing where they feed off each other if it works well, but now they're doing their own thing, so now they're both hurt by what they're doing and the mistakes that they're making.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we can say this over and over again, but COVID has really changed, and I would arguably like it has ruined a lot of things for every facet of media.
Yeah.
Whether it's a conference, movie release, or whatever it might be, it has uh, I would say damaged irreversibly the way that things once were.
It's so funny because I get in arguments over the years with individuals that insist that the way that they're doing it now with these separate announcements and these separate presentations are the best way to go for the gaming scene and for gamers. Yeah, maybe it is, but not for the general audience. When you're looking at the news for the general audience from USA Today, Yahoo, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever, you get these news, or they actually went ahead and made the effort to go ahead and be a part of the E3 scene and to cover what was going on there. They don't go out of their way to cover these separate PlayStation states of play. They don't go out of their way to cover the Nintendo presentations or the Xbox presentations separately because they're just the gaming thing. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. If you want to relegate it to just gamers and send the message to just gamers, okay, keep on doing the separate thing. But if you want to send it to the largest general audience possible, then E3 needs to come back the way it was before. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that.
Yeah,
It's the bigger
absolutely.
picture. People have to look at the bigger picture. Gamers have to look at the bigger picture and not just focus on them.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's something gamers, especially in 2022. I mean, we just can't. can't do. Like, you look at how much hostility is on a lot of these forums. Gamers are not capable of looking outside of their own preferences.
Now, that's the thing. Unfortunately, for the industry, they need every single available eye that they can get on their products. And the
Mhm.
best way to do that is coming together one more time for E3. But
Yeah.
hey, that's just me. That's just me.
What do we know, man? What do we know?
Uh, Dude, I've been to 7 or 8 E3s, and you've been into what, three now?
Mhm.
I'd say we know a little bit about what works and what doesn't at E3.
Yeah, if only they'd ask our opinion though, that'd be great.
That would be great indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on E3 returning this June? June of 2023, as we head once again, hopefully, to another great event at the LA Convention Center. But what are your thoughts? Will E3 returned to its glory with all three major publishers, Xbox, Sony, and Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, returning? Or will one or both, or excuse me, will one or two of these great and vaunted publishers and major industry stalwarts shun E3 to do their own thing? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Before we hit the break, my friend, Overwatch 2 has debuted or is going to debut this week. A major free to play game now, unlike what it was before as a $60 platform game, as far as a multiplayer shooter that initially got great success, great interest. They were starting leagues for it. Everybody was so excited for it. Jay Bartlett, my good friend, was really following it. Then all of a sudden, after a while, it just kind of dropped like a cliff off just the interest, and people stopped caring about Overwatch, and Blizzard was never able to recapture that glory or keep its audience in a large detail. But now that it's owned by Xbox, or on its way to being owned by Xbox, because Xbox has made the purchase, still has to get approved and all that because it's a 60 billion plus venture as far as the purchase is concerned. It still needs to be approved by the FCC and all that. But before or while it does, Overwatch 2 is debuting this week as a free to play game. Your thoughts on this? It's going to become microtransaction reliant. It's going to become hopefully a little bit better, more realized. But the thing is, it needs to do what it can to keep its community long term. Where does it need to go in order to do it right this time around?
I don't know. That's a hard question because I mean, people don't like the microtransactions, but I mean,
They love
companies
free to
make
play.
they love free to play, and that's how these games are supported. So it's just it is. I don't know, the community doesn't like it, yet they keep paying for it. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting concept to me. Um,
Well, free to play games, let me say this, free to play games, I don't mind microtransactions being there. If they do hinder your progression, that's one thing, but if they make it an unfair balance, if you don't buy, that's another thing as well. But if they just make it so it's a lot of cosmetics and things of
mhm.
that nature that you want, okay, that's fine. I don't mind that because it's a free to play game. It's the games like FIFA, which came out last week, which we'll talk about here in a sec, that those kind of bother me when you have to pay $60, $70, and then pay microtransactions to get all of it out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, FIFA, yeah, this is the last season for FIFA, but,
Yeah,
look
we'll
at
talk about that in a sec. But Overwatch 2,
Overwatch 2, like, I don't really think they have to do anything. I mean, people still go back to that game. What I think they need to work on is fixing their relationship with the esports leagues that had Overwatch before all that stuff came out about what Bobby Kotick was up to. Like that, they need to work on fixing relationships because that was what brought in a lot of money for Overwatch was their being part of these esports leagues that have since dropped them for all that stuff. I mean, as far as the game goes, as long as they keep putting out skins, releasing new characters, like I think they're fine. But relationship wise, that's where a lot of they're probably losing a lot of their money.
well, also the community as well. They decided to go ahead and move on to different things, whether it was Call of Duty, whether it was Fortnite, whether it was other things that were on the plate that seemingly were more interest. They just need to build a community and sustain it And that's the hardest thing. It's not just building it, but sustaining a experience that people want to go back to time and time again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And with all these other free to play games popping up, like the market is getting significantly larger for games like this. And I guess, yeah, what is it that's going to keep people coming back? I think Overwatch did a great job of what's the word?
Initially doing it, but yeah, they just didn't sustain it.
Yeah, but they as far as like content goes, they've done a good job of like putting out, they put out action figures, they'll put out little animes and stuff to like give backstories on these characters. Me personally, like I would love to have, little single player stories for each of these if they were to
Hmm.
put those out in like DLC form to kind of make me feel more attached to the characters when I use them in a multiplayer setting. Like that would be more for me.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I think right now that Overwatch 2 has a lot of work ahead of itself, but making itself free to play was a good move because, again, it's about building the community and staying with the game and staying with the community in something that's going to be attractive. So Blizzard has its hands full to go ahead, not just create a community now, but to build it and keep it and sustain it going forward. And with the power of Microsoft behind it, I'm hoping it will do just that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And well, it's just kind of a wait and see what happens type of thing.
Absolutely, indeed. But what are your thoughts out there on the return of Overwatch and Overwatch 2, now a free to play game coming out this week? Please, please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. My friend, almost our way through an entire episode. But before we hand it out, we talked about it before the break a little bit. FIFA 23, the final time Electronic Arts and FIFA will be together as FIFA is branching off into its own video game in the coming years. And EA is going to try and do what it can to make its own soccer game to try and continue its success, but the game has come out to okay reviews, as seemingly they're just underwhelming again as far as the fact that you have to pay $70 for a game and then play, and then to really go into the career mode and things of that nature, you have to go ahead and of course, pay microtransactions on top of it, which is extremely frustrating with these sports games like NBA 2K and now FIFA 23 that you continue, and Madden for that matter as well, that you have to continually buy these microtransactions to get the full, I guess, full complexion of these sports games. But your thoughts on FIFA 23? This is going to be the end. It's going to be the official breakup of EA and FIFA, which has been a long running partnership and has become the biggest of all the sports games that are out there. I mean, it's something I told the story to you many times when I was running the game stores, where my regional manager would get on my case. I only had hundreds of pre-orders for Halo 3. I only had like 300 or so, but I had also more FIFA pre-orders than everybody because in there, I saw it. I saw that at the 2007 2008 area. I saw the change from where Madden was going to where FIFA was going and the audience that was going to support it. So, your thoughts on EA and FIFA? FIFA has found a gold mine with the FIFA gaming series, and I think the best is yet to come as soon as they start creating their own games.
Yeah, I want to know who's going to be developing this new game for them. Like that, I don't think they're going to do it in house. That doesn't really, they don't do
No,
that.
no, they're
So
going
it'd
to
be really
latch on
hard
to
to.
some. I don't know if it was Konami or let me. I'll check on that right now.
I mean, Konami loves those games where they just keep getting paid for small things. They love their microtransactions. They're a gambling company. That's kind of what they do. But yeah, I don't know. Like that's good for them. Good for them taking control of their own property. We've never seen anybody do that. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being wildly successful for them. And like NFL, right? They stop renewing their contracts with the Madden brand and the what do you call it? The EA. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where we start seeing these big sports leagues making their own games.
Yeah.
Like that's what a way to make revenue. Like FIFA has sold a ridiculous amount of copies. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool if we can one day get to that point because I feel like EA is just yeah, they do. They milk every last cent that you have. They want everything you own, and like I would hope that these sports companies would, if they're going to give you microtransactions, make it worth your time.
I'll tell you what, FIFA, it's not clear exactly who is making the next game. I'm sure we'll report it here on an upcoming episode, but it is clear that they are finishing their relationship with EA. I think that's for the best for them because
Mhm.
EA and FIFA have not made super great games in the FIFA series for quite some time. We talked about for many years Konami's PES. That was really a much better game. The Konami series of football games, aka slash soccer games for here in America, they had actually done a better job each and every year as far as making a better game, even though they didn't have as many licenses, of course, as the FIFA games, which ultimately was the reason why they kept destroying them in sales as far as FIFA coming out on top each and every year. I think that this is a chance to go ahead and make a better all around game. I think EA gets into a thing where they just go ahead and do the same thing over and over and don't make truly many innovations that will really get fans excited because they know that the fans have to actually come to one place to get their fix like they do with Madden in the NFL.
Mhm.
They can, Madden doesn't have to really reinvigorate itself really that all that much each and every year because they know that you have to go to them. So it's really interesting that the fact that they're branching out and doing their own games. So hopefully this will create a better football game for them with the next FIFA, wherever it is. And for EA, I think it's a lesson learned. I think it's a lesson that they have to just better themselves as a video game company. Otherwise, they're going to lose even more licenses. They've lost the PGA license, I believe. They've also lost other licenses as well. So I think that they have to go ahead and research who they are and why they aren't doing as well as they once were in the sports world.
Well, I mean, look at EA has been consistently demonized over the years, and they have done exactly what everybody's accusing them of by filling everything they make with microtransactions. And their former CEO even came out and said like they're stupid. Anyone who doesn't do microtransactions is stupid. So we get a feel for where their mindset is at. And I'm not saying that microtransactions are all bad. Like I get that a lot of these games, the cost of making the game is justified through the purchases that are made afterwards. But if your whole aim is to profit off of people who have already paid $60-$70 for a game, then yeah, it does kind of come off the wrong way. Would you disagree with that?
I wouldn't disagree with that, but again, I just think that EA was very full of itself earlier
Oh,
last decade
absolutely.
when 2011, 2012, 2013 when it was the only game in town outside of what NBA was doing with 2K. They never really were able to make a effective NBA game that could compete with 2K, so they failed there, but oh no, no problem. We've got Tiger Woods, we've got FIFA, and we've got Madden, a 1, 2, 3 punch, which unfortunately two parts of it are now no longer there.
Yeah, they don't even do. I remember they used to own Fight Night too. They had all the
Yeah.
rights to the
And they used to have
boxing
the
games.
baseball license. They used to have the NCAA
Yeah,
football license. Yeah. Hmm.
they've since lost it. I mean, MLB The Show is a great game. It's made by Sony. So I
Yeah.
mean, there's yeah, the landscape has definitely changed, but I personally miss the days back when there were options. You had not just 2K and EA, but there were other companies that made games like NBA Inside Drive or NFL Fever, or there's NFL Street. There are options. You had Blitz. There are a lot of different places to go to get these games, and now they are monopolized by EA, and EA doesn't do anything to play worth picking up a new copy every year. It's just the same thing year after year after year. There's no innovation happening anymore.
Exactly my point, which I want to get to before we go ahead and head on out, my friend, and that is the FIFA game on the Nintendo Switch. If you go to the website that supports the EA part of the Nintendo Switch FIFA games, it will tell you that this year it uses the same engine and no major upgrades have been made for it outside of roster changes than what happened last year. Oh, and if you checked out for the one last year, it'll tell you that the same exact thing for the previous year. Oh, and if you go ahead and look at the previous that same next website for EA FIFA 21, it'll say the same thing. It's EA FIFA 20. Oh, and don't forget that it will also tell you for Nintendo Switch, if you check out the website, that it has no improvements since EA FIFA 19 was introduced on the Nintendo Switch, which was the first game for first football slash soccer game to come out on the Nintendo Switch. It's never really done anything since the company to improve each and every year. And you've released you've released five different FIFAs, I believe, on that platform with no major changes. I think that speaks volumes right there. And that's the most popular platform right now in the world.
Oh,
Crazy.
absolutely. Yeah, no, you definitely you hit the nail on the head. You got a great point there. And well, yeah, it's something I don't understand. I know a lot of people. Madden, for example, is a perfect candidate for these new, let's just create a platform. Let's do a Halo Infinite, Assassin's Creed, whatever it is that they're working on, just a platform where you can go for the future of every new game that comes out. You have Ubisoft's doing with Just Dance, right? You have it, and every year you buy the
It
new
still comes
edition.
out on the Wii.
It still comes out on the Wii, but every year you can go now. You could buy that. You just upgrade the game you already have. You can go Madden. Hey, buy the 2023 patch. You don't have to pay $60-$70 for it. Here's a $30-$40 patch. It'll upgrade everything for you.
Yeah.
Like there's no need to go make people pay $60-$70 for this. I know that within 6 months those games will be like $20, but it's still, it doesn't, it just feels like all they care about is money.
How many years in a row, especially for the Nintendo Switch version, do you want to get, or do you want to continually get a 2 from IGN for you from in regards to the Nintendo Switch version for FIFA? They continually get extremely poor reviews and nothing is done, and that's your and that's the most popular platform right now in video gaming is Nintendo Switch. And
Yeah.
it just tells me why FIFA is making the right move by leaving EA, because EA just simply doesn't care.
They do not care. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. They just want money. And people can't argue with that because they have done an amazing job of showing that, hey, all we really want from you is your money.
My friend, just a very troubling thing indeed. But for FIFA, it's going to be much more enjoyable, hopefully, with future seasons of a FIFA game that's not going to be, or not going to have, the EA branding on it. So, what are your thoughts out there on EA and FIFA? At their last FIFA game, which came out last week, FIFA 23, and the last time that they will be together one by one. So it'll be interesting to see what EA brings out as a soccer game slash football game, and what FIFA does to bring out a game under its own banner sometime soon. Please share your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, a major death in the gaming world, which unfortunately wasn't as major as we once hoped when they first introduced it, as Google Stadia is going to be officially RIP as of actually mid January, and next year it's going to be officially shut down. All the games that you own for Stadia will hopefully be transferred over to a PC platform. They're talking about with Ubisoft and other manufacturers, and hopefully we'll be able to go ahead and do that. But your thoughts on the death of Stadia? It was something that had such high hopes. It seemed a little bit ahead of its time. You're being able to go ahead and just hook it up to your television and just be able to play off your television with really nothing needed outside of a controller. But unfortunately, and maybe a Chromecast. What are your thoughts on this? Because Google Stadia unfortunately had such high hopes. They had studios in place, but a year or two later, they finally cut them all out, and unfortunately, just became a afterthought since.
Did we not call this like 5 years ago?
Yeah, we actually did.
Did we not say, oh, this is a bad idea and it's not going to end well for them?
I just thought the fact that they
And
weren't going to get enough support and it put their stuff on in house. I just thought the pricing was bad. Yeah, if you can go check out our episode back then on the birth of Stadia, we told you it was a bad idea.
This is like in video games, like when you like attack a character but they don't die, they just like crawl away slowly. Like that's Stadia for me. Like they have you kept hearing like, hey, we're shutting down servers, but they kind of lingered for a while. They just
Yeah,
kind of didn't go anywhere. And now they are finally coming to an end. And good. I'm happy that they are refunding a lot of people for stuff.
yeah,
This is like this was such a monumentally bad thing for them. Like, I don't know. And I hope that this is a good example for anybody trying to get into the gaming business that doesn't belong there. Like Netflix I think is going to be doing the same exact thing. Um, I do, however, think that the big issue with Stadia was like a lot of the things they promised just didn't work. They didn't
I
have
agree.
the infrastructure required to do something like this. I think that Microsoft will be able to do it when the Xbox with the Xbox app on the TV that they're working on. I think that that will work just fine because we've seen that
Yeah,
through their cloud process. But Stadia just didn't have the infrastructure or the experience required to do something like that.
it's a shame though that you mentioned that. I love the fact that you love rubbing salt to the wound because I was so excited when I talked to you the other day about how it was coming to Samsung Smart TVs, and actually did come to Samsung Smart TVs earlier this year. 2022 models for
Mm-hmm.
Samsung. I have a 2021.
Yeah. Yep. So
Hopefully, they will go ahead and add older smart TVs to this mix, Samsung and
oh, I'm
otherwise.
sure.
But
I'm sure they will. I'm sure there'll be something because I mean that's what Phil Spencer wants. Like he wants
yeah,
people to be able to play these games
yeah,
anywhere and everywhere. Um, yeah, looking at I don't know, just like cloud gaming in general. Like I know I would hope that one day PlayStation likes making money though. I mean they like selling their consoles and being like the ooh we're highly sought after. But in a perfect world one day like we'll all be able to just log in anywhere and play these games. So I don't know. We'll see. I think that Stadia is a good example though of what not to do for sure. And I was reading somewhere that they actually turned down a Death Stranding sequel that was going to be
mhm.
exclusive to Stadia. That's interesting.
That's also a mistake, and the reason, and part of the reason why they're going to die a horrible death come come January 18th. What are your thoughts out there on the death of Stadia? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. Last thing in, last thing out, my friend, will be the Last of Us trailer that hit last week. Of course, it's got to have in these post apocalyptic world type movies, of course, it's got to have a Johnny Cash song playing to the trailer. Your thoughts on it? Thought it was pretty good. Can't wait for the show to come out next year, even though we pretty much know how it goes. Your thoughts on the Last of Us trailer before we head on out?
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I'm not excited about it, but it's cool and I'll watch
Yeah.
it. I feel like The Last of Us, especially with how many times that game has come out again. I've played it twice, and
Mhm.
like it is what it is. It's not something I'm like dying to watch. The same thing I looked at with the Halo show. Like cool. Yeah, I mean, I played Halo. I've beaten Halo probably over 50 times, and
Oh, it's got to be
I
better than Halo. Come on, you cannot be as bad as the Halo
well,
series.
okay. I mean, let's not jump the gun here.
Okay.
Let's wait and see because that's what originally we're like. Halo can't be that bad with all like the misfires that Resident Evil has taken, and then lo and behold, Halo was pretty darn bad. So let's
Yes.
who's to say Last of Us won't go that direction? I do love the acting though. I love what Pedro Pascal, like
Yes.
they really made him gritty in that trailer and I really enjoyed that. So we'll see what happens, man. But I'm kind of burnt out on Last of Us right now. So hopefully by the time the show comes out, I'll be more, willing to go back to that world.
Yeah, it's not coming out till next year, so we do have time to go ahead and get that fire once again going for The Last of Us. But what are your thoughts out there on Pedro Pascal playing Joel in The Last of Us, coming to HBO and HBO Max next year? Please let us know your thoughts. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. My friend, another great episode. A ton of news. My gosh, in the books. I'll be hopefully talking to Don Fobbs for our October TV report. A ton of broadcast stuff has debuted for premieres, and broadcast television is once again all over the place with some brand new shows and some returning shows and all that good stuff. So we talk about that hopefully coming up later this week on the PC Multiverse. But any last thoughts before we head on out?
Not a whole lot, man. I mean, I do want to discuss like some of the new things that Hasbro announced over the week. Maybe next week and we can jump on that. But
Mhm.
yeah, other than that, like it's a pretty slow couple of months, I guess, in terms of like releases. Things are kind of just like trickling out instead of coming out back to back to back to back as per
Mhm.
normal. So, at least when things come out, we'll have time to talk about them.
Absolutely. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the Blade issues losing its director and Armored Wars turning from a series into a movie. Any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, I the Blade thing baffles me because that is something people are clamoring for, and they're in danger of losing everything that people were excited about. So I don't
Yeah.
know what the holdup is on that, but they need to do something. It'd be really cool is if they recruited Guillermo del Toro and said like, "Hey, put everything on pause you're doing right now. We'll give you that paycheck that'll make it worth your while."
That would be great to see. But yeah, the future is uncertain for the Blade movie now that the director has walked off to do something else. And then Armored Wars turning from a series into a movie. There's been no date. It's not been added to the timeline yet officially for the phase 4, 5, or 6. But your thoughts on Armored Wars before we head on out?
I think that got a little too big. I think or sorry, it was bigger than they expected it to be. I think they're trying to keep it small and compact. And now I think the story just evolved beyond the abilities of a Disney Plus show. And I think, yeah, maybe that's a good move for them because that I was looking at that and I was like, how are they going to make that? Because that I imagine the Iron Man movies were like stupid expensive to make,
Yes.
and you're talking about doing that on a Disney Plus platform. I don't think you'd be able to do it justice. So I was actually kind of glad to hear that they were going this route. And I love what's his name's Justin Hammer. Oh shoot, what's that guy's name? That the actor
Justin Hammer, as far as the actor is concerned. Oh, Sam.
Sam. Yeah, yeah. I love anything that he does. Like I'm a big fan. I always liked his Justin Hammer character, and I know he's returning, so that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the way he portrayed that role, being Sam Rockwell, the Academy Award winning actor that he is. He's been nominated several times as well. Great actor, just loves to return in that role. I think he's going to play a major part in this movie now. I think, like you said, the scope has changed, especially with the Ironheart series already going ahead and becoming a series on Disney Plus. I think that the fact that this needed to evolve into a movie to hopefully provide a bigger picture for the MCU was sorely needed, and I'm glad that they're doing it. But we don't even know when it's coming out.
No, we don't. We keep getting more and more Marvel announcements. So I have a feeling that before the year's over, we're gonna get a new like slate of films, an updated timeline because I think that they're kind of figuring things out as they go right now.
What are your thoughts out there on an Armored Wars movie, no longer a series, and also as well the issues with Blade? Do you still think Blade will come out? I would love to see a Mahershala Ali's version of Blade. Hopefully, we will get a chance to see that on the big screen. Still scheduled for September of next year, but we'll see if it's taken off the schedule because of the problems it's currently having. It was actually supposed to go into production next month, so we'll see what happens here. But what are your thoughts on the changes going on in Marvel? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Wow, just a great thing indeed as far as so much news, so much to cover, man. Any last thoughts before we head on out?
No, man, I think we got it all.
All right, my friend. Just so much news. And if you want to follow all the news as it happens in the world of pop culture, no better place to go than right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great